Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 539. Before I get started, I want to say that there's a lot of interesting missed tactics in this game. So I have 4 opportunities here in this video for tactical quizzes, so I hope you guys enjoy that. Here, let's get to the game. I'll try to go through some parts quickly. E4, C5, we have a Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6, d4. So I go for the open Sicilian. And this is all the main line up until e6. And I have seen this move before, and last time I played the move g4, thinking I was going into a Scheveningen and I was doing the Keres attack. But this isn't really the Scheveningen. The Scheveningen is, you have the knight out here first, knight here, and then g4 after that. It threatens to push this knight away, so it makes some sense. In this position, g4 really doesn't make sense, so I played the more sensible move this time, c4. Going for a Maroczy bind setup, which is something I'm always happy to get a little bit of practice at. I'm trying to learn how to play that better. So we develop in kind of a normal way for a while. I think we're out of the book here. Queen a5 is a bit unusual. It's common in many Sicilians. It pins the knight, and the queen may swing over to the other side of the board in some cases. In this case, it doesn't seem to do a whole lot because this pawn is not yet under fire. Anyway, I just continue developing. Knight f6. Now he attacks the pawn, and I defend it with f3. So I'm getting this typical Maroczy bind pawn structure where I have a very solid center and an advantage in space. And this is the kind of position that Chess Engine really likes a lot. You can see it gives a high evaluation to white. But all is not so simple. But notice that I'm doing lots of moves with my pieces but not really engaging in any direct activity. This is one of the things I find hard about it. Playing the Maroczy bind is that you don't go for direct activities. You just kind of build up a good structure here and try and enjoy it, I guess, and hope your opponent makes some mistakes. Sometimes you push on with these pawns, but to start with, I'm just setting up a solid structure here. This pawn was not yet under attack, but it can come under attack later along the c file. So he goes knight g6, and now the Chess Engine thinks I should continue with queen d2. And maybe bring a rook over here, that kind of thing. Instead, I go knight a4. It's just my penchant for activity, I guess, kicking in. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to do something active. And it's not a horrible move, but you see it's not the preferred move of the engine. But the idea is that maybe there's a weakness here on b6 I can exploit after this knight gets out of the way. So he goes b5. Okay, and this is the first tactical quiz. So b5 is a mistake, and your opportunity is to imagine you're white in this position and see if you can figure out how to exploit that weakness. I will say this is a kind of there's a simple tactical idea, but it's complicated in that it takes several moves to realize it. So anyway, it's a bit of a sequence that requires some calculation, but see if you can spot the idea and see how much you can calculate of it. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now, so pause the video if you want some time to think about it. He did play b5, and I didn't spot this idea, but his queen is very nearly trapped. So if you're thinking queen trap, that's the right thought. And knight to c6 is the first move here. And after that, his queen really only has one square it can go to. Notice that the knight's covering this square, and the other knight's covering that square, and along this diagonal, all of these squares are covered. That's covered by the knight, and all those squares are covered. So the queen has to go to c7, and now it's opposite the rook. This is why it takes several steps. So you can't immediately exploit the queen trap, but you can kind of kick it around a bit. So you can open up this c file, and it also defends the knight, by the way, which was under attack. So the best move here, I guess I won't show all the different variations that could happen. It would be too long. But the best move here is to go ahead and take that pawn, and then the second knight jumps in. So notice how both knights are supported by the pieces. This knight's supported by the bishop, this knight's supported by the rook. I'm hitting this rook here. If it stays on the back rank, then it's going to get nabbed by one of these knights. But if it goes off the back rank, say it grabs a pawn down here, then this bishop can be taken. And the tactic is, no matter how you take back, knight takes e7 check will win material. If you take back with the queen, then knight takes e7 check will win the queen. If you take back with the rook, then knight takes e7 check, say queen takes knight, then you win the rook. So no matter what happens here, you're winning material. So that's the tactic. It is a bit complicated to see, but you could spot this idea of knight to c6, kicking the queen around, and then try to exploit the position on the c file, see if you can come up with the rest of it from this position. So this kind of thing you might play in a blitz game, I think. But not me. Anyway, c takes b5. He took the pawn. I saw I was winning a pawn here, and I just went for it and grabbed the pawn. And I definitely do have an advantage. Okay, here's a second tactical opportunity, very similar to the first one. He played bishop a6. Can you see the best way to exploit this mistake? Okay, perhaps that was too much of a clue. But hopefully you saw that after bishop to a6, my move bishop to b6, the move I didn't play rather, bishop to b6, is also leading to a queen trap. This time you've taken away this diagonal. There is still one square for the queen to go to, but after the queen goes to b4, you can hit it with this pawn, and now there really is nowhere to go. Everything is protected. That the queen, every square the queen can go to is attacked by one of my pieces. So the best black can do is sacrifice the queen for 2 pieces by taking the knight there. So another little queen trap. I missed that idea too, but I was happy to have won a pawn, and I probably got a winning game here. Let's see, the game continues. Bishop takes, queen takes, and e5, kicking my knight. Go knight f5. I don't mind trading this knight for the bishop. You may think this is a bad bishop because it's behind the pawns, but this is a weak d-pawn, so trading the knight for the bishop would allow me to concentrate on this weakness, so that would be a good thing. He tries to dissolve the weakness with the move d5. So I go ahead and grab the bishop with check, which is okay. And then I have an intermediate move here. Instead of taking immediately, when I take the pawn immediately, he just takes back with the knight, and so I just stay a pawn up. But there's a way to actually win that pawn outright, and once again, it's taking advantage of the queen position here. So, well, I could also just go directly bishop to c5. That's probably simplest, rather than there's also a line suggested by the chess engine where you trace the queen around, but just pinning the knight. And attacking the knight too, so he doesn't have time to push the pawn forward. He's got to do something about defending the knight. The queen drops back to c7, and then let's see, well, you can just trade this off. Knight to b6. Okay, this is not so simple. E takes d5, knight f takes d5, rook f e1. Okay, I take it back, actually. This was not as simple as I thought it was. But okay, that's a better sequence. Rather than just taking, the way I played it, I take immediately, he takes back. He went knight e d5, and cancel that, knight e d5. And he's got a decent position here. He's still a pawn down, but it'll take me a while to get these pawns going, and the game goes on. So one point I wanted to make is that, when you have those tactical opportunities, you really should take them. Even if you're winning a pawn, it's much better to be a piece up than a pawn up, because the game continues if you're just a pawn up, and there's opportunities for your opponent to take advantage of your subsequent mistakes and get back in the game. You have to be much more careful. So that's one reason why it's important. Anyway, I continue here, bishop g5. I play okay for a while, keeping that pawn edge. He goes knight to f4, hitting my queen. I decide to trade off, and we get this situation where my 3 pawns hold back his 4, and then I've got these 2 pawns here. And if I can just trade queens, I will have a very easily winning endgame. But it's a long way between where we are now and the endgame. Let's see. He goes rook f to d1. Oh no, it's my turn. I go rook f to d1, trying to activate my rook. He puts his rook on the e file, hitting my queen. I go queen to c4. So I'm happy to line up here and maybe make some threats, threaten to trade queens, that kind of thing. He comes over here and starts to make threats against my king side. And so I defend with rook to c2. Didn't want to just didn't want to fall victim to some sort of attack on the g2 square, and also his rook. His rook was threatening to come in here to e2, although the queen is at the moment defending that square, but a little extra protection on the second rank, and also just doubling, maybe hoping to penetrate into his position is an idea as well. He played h6, getting a little lift for his king. I went rook c to d2, so I have doubled the rooks, and now I can, maybe operate along the d file, bring a rook up here, mix up the knights in the way to chase his queen. The knight is protecting that square, but there may be some ideas. And he has a similar plan. He comes in here with rook e3. He's going to double on the e file, get my knight, try to get my knight back into the game with knight b6. I'm trying to avoid various skewers and things, so going from here to one of the squares on the d file. That's my plan. He goes rook a e8, doubling, and I go queen c1 here. So queen c1 is a mistake. And once again, here's a time for you to put on your tactical hat. See if you can figure out what's wrong with the move queen to c1. This is, once again, it's a forcing sequence. Maybe the first idea is pretty simple, but you have to look through the whole sequence to find out, to figure out why it wins in the end. So see if you can calculate this sequence out. Imagine white has played the move queen c1 and it's black's turn to move. What's the move for black? Okay, pause the video. I'm going to give the answer away now. Now, I think you may have spotted the first move. After queen c1, this rook can come into e2. It's something I haven't mentioned before. He's now threatening mate. So this trade is forced. I have to take. He takes back. And now I can save the position with this check. I may even have thought about this in the game. The check and the king comes up here, or he blocks with the knight. And then I can bring the queen over to defend. But this is the position you have to see. You calculate ahead, and then you notice that the king and the knight are on a diagonal, and the knight is unprotected here on b6. So just queen here, check, picks up a piece. So that's the winning idea there. It's all those forcing moves to pull my defenders away and clear this diagonal, and then the knight is loose over here. So that's the winning idea. My opponent missed that. He played h5. Let's see. I went. There's one more tactic coming up. Rook d8. He went king h7, getting away from the pin. I thought, trading material is going to be good for me. And then I went rook to e1. And after the move rook e1, there is once again a tactic for black, and this is a simpler tactic. So let's see if you can spot this one. So imagine white plays rook e1. What does black play to exploit that? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. After rook e1, there's a fairly straightforward fork. Once again, it's a queen move and taking advantage of the loose knight and the fact that my rook is already under pressure. So it's a double attack. The queen is hitting the rook and the knight at the same time. Let's see, rook takes e3 is best. And then queen takes b6, taking the knight and exploiting the fact that the rook is pinned. So I'm not getting out of that one. And so I will have some pawns, but he has a knight, so he's up in material. Anyway, he missed that one. Played h4, and now finally I'm actually winning. I get my knight back to safety. So that one move, knight to b6, which actually I thought was a safer square for the knight because I was planning to bring it over to the e file, turned out to be a risky position for the knight. He plays h3, but this just is not working. I can grab the rook now, and when I grab the rook, I also defend against the mate threat on g2. So he takes the knight, and now I lift up my rook, defending against the mate threat again. He pushes on with more pawns, but this isn't helping. Now I can actually grab this e-pawn, get rid of the threats of these advanced pawns. He drops his queen back to g6. Let's see, I take the knight, and after this trade, he resigns. So anyway, interesting game, lots of mistakes. It's one of those games that makes you realize what a difficult game chess is, I guess. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.